Legacy insurance companies are being transformed, and a new wave of providers are setting up to provide services for a rapidly transforming world. Toby McMurray from Chewins is joined by Ed Axon from Trov to discuss what the future normal will look like for insurance distribution.
Welcome everybody to a conversation with Ed Axon from Trove. Morning, Ed.
Morning, Toby. Great to be here. Thanks for getting me involved in this. It's lovely to be involved in something in Belfast for a change, so I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Ed, give us a very brief summary of your role in the business.
Yeah, so I'm the global head of business development for Trove, and ostensibly that means I move around the world looking for innovative partnerships to distribute our insurance products and our technology. I say move around the world. I did pre-COVID. I now move around it virtually. Typically, those would be anything from retailers through to DCBs or digital consumer brands, and also I'm involved in our conversations with our large underwriting partners around the world. So that's what I do.
Excellent. Well, I'm, as you know, a partner in Chewins. Chewins is a law firm in Belfast, and we have partnered for many years and support Digital DNA. It's a fantastic, innovative, forward-thinking thing to be involved in. Give us a brief history of the Trove story, if you like.
Okay, Toby, I'll keep this as brief as I can. We are about 8 years old, Californian based. We're a team of about 60 people, heavily engineered focus, and we started life really as a B2C product, and we had our own B2C product. And we often like to see we were the forerunners or godfathers of on-demand insurance, and what that means really is the ability to buy insurance in incremental time moments. We built the original platform to do that. Since then, we've moved the business on to be a much more of a B2B player. So we work with both incumbent insurers to develop very innovative products to bring to market with them, all based in the cloud. Or in fact, we work to embed insurance solutions in the journey of consumer brands. I mean, that's our very short story. We have offices in the UK. We have been live in territory in Australia and Japan and in the US. So, and things are going well. It's an exciting time to be involved in Insurtech, as the Belfast guys at DNA have said. It's a very in vogue subject to be involved in, and I think even more so over the next few years. It's there's more innovation on its way. The more data there is available, I think insurance is going to continue to evolve.
And just remind me and the viewers, when was Trove born?
So Trove's about 8 years old.
Yeah.
And as I say, started in the US, in California, and started live very much in, as I say, in that B2C world. And we very quickly realized actually what we had built was a platform that had the ability to digitalize and make more modern insurance product and become that conduit between big insurance underwriters and really modern distribution of insurance.
Yes. And Trove has always had, if you like, a local connection, hasn't it? Have you been in Trove for how long?
Yeah, so I'm about 4.5 years in, and as you say, one of the original co-founders was a guy called Mark Dowd, who I'm sure many of the Digital DNA people know. He's also the brains behind the Ormo Baths incubation hub in Belfast. It happened that him and I also went to school together in Belfast, so there's always been a Belfast connection. And in fact, I moved back to Belfast, having been 30 years away, about 18 months ago, because my role really allowed me to work. We're very comfortable with remote working. So given I was traveling so much, I could work anywhere, really. And Belfast was as good a place to be, especially when I think what's happening in Belfast with the growth of the technology world in Belfast, and there's a lot of really cool stuff going on.
Sure. And I mean, that's an interesting point, and not, I'm going to pick one thing up that's not specifically on point with our discussion around Trove, but with you being headquartered on the West Coast, and all of us having experienced a lot more of remote home working, do you find that your home working life is all over the place from an hours point of view?
No, I think you get into a cadence with it, and as an organisation, we're very respectful. You know, I have colleagues in Australia, I have colleagues in Canada, in the US, in Europe, and as an organisation, we've always set out to be respectful. Now, that's not to say, Toby, that my hours tend to be heavier towards the second half of the day, when our New York colleagues come online or when our West Coast colleagues come online. But it's a balance, and we've always been respectful of that. But there'll be times where you just have to, be working late. That's just the way of the world. And I'm really comfortable with that because there is flexibility in it. I could be, way out for a walk early morning here in Belfast, and knowing that I'm going to be working later in the evening. So it's balance. And it was no real difference when I was traveling a lot. I think 2019 I did over 100 flights, and it was no real difference. You try to be as respectful as you can, but also you have to get the work done. So if you're going to work in multiple territories, so there's a bit of give and take. So, but we're comfortable with it.
Yes, and then everything's changing at the minute.
Yeah,
see that. I know you have reasonably young children. We see that in how our kids are experiencing things from media, relationships, schooling. Give us your view of how the speed at which technology is changing our lives, our children's lives. Give us a view as to how that is having an impact on the insurance industry.
It's a great question, Toby. And if you think of the insurance world, generationally, if I think about how I absorbed insurance way back when I got my first car, that was a route into buying insurance. I bought my first flat in London. You had to buy insurance. Well, that's not necessarily the linear route younger people are taking now. There aren't as many young people buying cars. Mobility is a very different place. There's car share, ride share, bike share, scooter share. Young people want mobility, but they don't necessarily, their thought of ownership, their pride in ownership of vehicles isn't what it might have been in my generation. Likewise, how they live. We say we live in rent generation globally. Any major city in the world, the generation of rental is fast growing. If you take the UK's got the fastest growing rental population in the world. All of the big investment houses, the pension funds, are now investing heavily in build to rent rather than build to buy. So there's a generational piece of the reasons we would have bought insurance in the past maybe aren't just there. Added to that, we live in a Netflix generation where everything's on demand. Subscription living. Our own children, Toby, they think you can get ice cream on demand. They don't wait. There's a sort of different way of working. They don't like waiting. Younger people don't like waiting for clothes. Don't like waiting for anything. They can buy stuff on demand. Now, insurance therefore has to follow suit. And at times that's difficult, heavily regulated. In any country in the world, it's a heavily regulated industry. But I think the insurance industry, 300 years old, has to understand that if you want people to be protected, and that's good for the industry and it's good for consumers, you have to do it in a way that makes them really comfortable. And if I use, you and I have a daughter, similar age, if I use them, they're 12 years old, and in 8 years' time, when they might want to think about protection, what would Aviva mean to them? What would AXA mean to them? Brilliant companies, super businesses, and we work with many of them. But would that mean anything to them? As opposed to Amazon, as opposed to Booking.com as opposed to
Sure.
Tesla. So it's it's an interesting place. The insurance world is, where you have to find a way to bring insurance to where people are living, rather
Sure.
than expecting them to find insurance in a way. And there was a fantastic, I'd like to say it was but it was a brilliant McKinsey report did on the future of insurance distribution, and it said as much as 30% of all insurance distribution will be at the hands of major consumer brands in the future, in the next 10 years. So it's changing. The great thing for us is, all of the big underwriters globally, they all want to innovate. All of them, they're super companies, and they all want to innovate. It's how sometimes we get frustrated that how quickly we can innovate as a sort of 60 strong people is very different than a big insurance company, heavily regulated, where compliance is so important to them. And I mean, you work in the legal world. It's at in many ways, Toby, it's almost like you talk a different language. You talk a Californian startup language versus a huge big insurance company that it's all sorts of layers, and finding that best way to work is one of the real important things. Is how do you work? Yeah. How is it an insurance technology business? Do you work with a big underwriter? How do you find the best way to work? So
on that, give us. I mean, I know of your partnership with Lloyd's, which I think has been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Explain to us how that works, what the product is. Tell the viewers on the ground about a Trove product in that context.
So Lloyd's banking group, one of the largest, banking groups in the UK, in fact globally, and one of the most famous, banking brands in the world. What we do with them is they had identified obviously this growing trend of renters or non-purchasing home people, and they didn't really have a product that was relevant. And I say didn't really have a product. Lloyd's have a huge share of the insurance market in the UK, but typically or historically, renters or flexible contents insurance has always been a dumbed down version of home insurance that you purchase with your mortgage. Typically, the coverages are too big, the question set's too much. So we, with Lloyd's super support and intelligence around pricing, we developed a very fast to market digital end-to-end, right through from quote to binding a policy, to buying a policy, to making midterm adjustments, to making a claim. Is fully digital. So you can do all of it in your telephone. And I will give you some statistics around it. You can get a quote in under 4 questions, which is huge, which is really fast. You can buy a policy in under 2 minutes. These are things that the insurance world typically you don't do. I don't know if you spend any time on the aggregators, for example, Toby. You might have to put answer 50 questions, and we've speeded that whole thing up for Lloyd's, and with their support, we've developed a super product where you have a monthly subscription. So there isn't an annual policy, for example. You have this monthly subscription that you subscribe to your insurance coverage that's right for you. But also our platform allows for flexibility. So I'll give you an example. You can add stuff on and take stuff away. So we call it anywhere items. And if you think of your typical renter, say in London or even in Belfast, 20 years or 30 years ago when I bought an apartment or a flat, I didn't really own anything. You didn't have a £1,000 telephone and a £2,000 bike and headphones, and these are items that young people now have, and the ability to insure them on the go, no matter where they are, no matter if they're in home or they're away. We've added that flexibility to the program, so it's a fully end-to-end digital experience for young renters or people that want flexible contents insurance, and it's going really well for us.
Where is that available, Ed? Is that
in the UK? Yeah, it actually is available in Belfast. So you can go on, and if anybody looks, they can go on and look up Halifax Renters Insurance or Lloyd's Flexible Contents Insurance. That's a Trove product end to end. What we take is the intelligence and the underwriting skill of Lloyd's, and we ingest that into our platform, and then we run the program for them. And the great thing, we have a really confident statement, and you won't see our brand really anywhere in it. You'd have to look. It says powered by Trove, but actually it's all about the Lloyd's brand. It's all about and the strength of the Halifax brand and the Lloyd's brand. So yeah, it's a live product. It's really good.
Excellent. And that's a live product that's on the ground.
Yeah.
There's obviously massive opportunities in this space. Where are the ones that you see most fertile at the minute?
Well, we're very focused in two areas. So in the US and the UK, and we see the opportunity really for what's being deemed embedded insurance. So how do you embed an insurance journey in the consumer journey of an already established brand? So I suppose the ultimate is if Amazon really want to sell insurance, they'll be able to do it. So they have a huge amount of data. They have big net promoter scores. They're hugely trusted. So why wouldn't a consumer buy insurance off them? Now, it's not as simple as that, but I suppose that is one of the big brands that potentially could do it. But if you think about, let's give another example, if IKEA wanted to sell a home insurance product in their journey in an IKEA way, well, of course they could. Now, but what is really important there is it has to be done, and it would have to be done in an IKEA way. It would have to be very clean and very quick and very accessible. And that's
it's going to be blue and yellow.
Yes, and you'd have to flat package it. But that's the piece that where we see our ambition is to be the conduit between brilliant underwriting and capacity through the big insurers globally, the Avivas and the Lloyds and the AXAs and the Markells. And if we can be almost the pipes that allow an IKEA to have a really cool digital insurance product that's really good for their customers, but delivered in an IKEA way, that's the perfect, I suppose, perfect storm trilogy. So we see ourselves very much as those pipes, both in the US and the UK. The differences between the two are, the FCA here, it's a bit harder to work here, but once you get it right, they're very supportive. Whereas the US, it's a bit faster, but the same principle. If the insurance industry as a whole want a modern consumer to buy insurance, they have to deliver it. You have to go and bring insurance to where they're living. Don't expect them to come and find insurance.
Yeah. And what about sort of sectorally as to what people buy from an insurance product? For example, motor insurance. Is that something you do, or is that something that is?
Yeah, we had a product live in Australia with some support from Suncorp. So really, our ambition is our platform and our APIs really could drive any insurance product through it. What you need is the right underwriting product, and I say insurance product. So you need support from an underwriter, and you need distribution. So if we've got those two things with us sitting in the middle to develop a very modern insurance, policy administration, quote to bind, claims technology, then really we could run any type of insurance for it. We've got some focus at the moment where we're actually working with a large OEM, a large manufacturer, to explore a product with them. But our real focus is around this, what we term the live products. So we're really focused on renters and home and landlord, pet. They talk about often the trilogy of millennials, which is gadget, renters, and pet. So there's a real focus because we see the distribution opportunities there as well. We see that if you're really comfortable, let's take a modern one of some of the challenger banks, the Monzos and the Revoluts and what's next for them really? Well, actually, the ability to bring modern insurance to their consumers is obviously a natural step, but they'll want it done in a Revolut way. They'll want it done in a Monzo way. They'll want it done in a Varo way in the US, and that's a really interesting space for us. The other piece with renters insurance or flexible contents is there's a lot of really cool consumer brands in that space who are creating rent-free deposit products, really fast credit scoring. And the natural thing for them is then, well, what else can we do with that customer when we've built up that trust in that customer? And insurance is one of those. And the great thing about insurance, if you get it right, there is this recurring revenue. If the product's good and the product's priced well, your renewal rates are really good. So that's our ambition, is to do more of that, be more of that conduit or those pipes that build really modern insurance technology and allows the big insurers to I suppose, launch modern products without having to upset their own sort of business as usual, And we never lose sight. So if let's take Aviva or any of them, Admiral. If Admiral wanted to build what we have, well, of course they could. But actually, how long might it take them? And is it worth them doing it? Why not partner with us? And we think there's more and more global partnerships with insurance technology happening because it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah. So Trove will invariably be front-ended, branded as a existing insurer, or would they ever have their own?
No, so we were in that space before, Toby. And
yes, I remember seeing the app.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That you would have swiped across, and
we call it the Great Experiment. It was we learned a lot. We learned a lot about the difficulty of being a global consumer brand. Given the sheer size of being that, and you won't see I would say I'd be confident enough to say you'll not see the Trove brand at the front end again.
Yeah.
What you will see is more of our technology being embedded into the solutions or the distributors, the IKEAs of this world and the Repits of this world and the Canopies of this world, and those sorts of companies they've built really great technology. And what they want to do, they want to control the front end. They want to build on top of our APIs. They understand how their consumers use their product, and therefore we're building the technology to allow that. Our ambition is to make it really easy for consumer brands to embed insurance in their journey.
Sure.
That is the ambition. And as I said earlier, some of that comes with what does that mean? Well, the technology has to be right, but we also have to offer guidance and support in the regulatory environment. So that's where you're going to see more and more Trove announcing, partnerships. But in order to do it, you have to have support. We have to have we have a team of people that spend most of their time looking at capacity support, looking at our insurance partners. Who's going to allow us to have their balance sheet, allow us to have their insurance product, and allow us to bring distribution to the market. So that's that trilogy I talked about earlier.
And you might have touched on it, Ed, and you might not be able to tell us, but what are you working on at the minute?
Well, I can't tell you specific brands, but I'll tell you where we're working. So as I said earlier, we're working with a major car brand. They're looking at innovative insurance. If you think of the car brands, in fact, our friend Elon Musk from Tesla announced today that his ambition was to put many car insurers out of business. Whether or not that's just for coverage, but the reality of it is the car manufacturers have so much data now, and with data comes more intelligent underwriting, more personalized underwriting.
Yeah.
The ability, Toby, for you to have a car insurance product based on specifically on you and what you do, and not just when you buy it and how you drive it and what you're doing. That data is now available. What has to happen with that data? It needs to be put through the pipes of something like Trove that turns that into an insurance policy administration, quote to claim. And I see more of that happening. I think the car manufacturers realize that they're sitting on lots of data because car ownership is changing, so therefore insurance is a way to keep their customers closer. So we're working in the car world. There'll be a huge amount going on in the, I suppose, the renter stroke home space, and we're examining what is next in the product suite for us. And I say product suite, I mean what's the next insurance product in that world for us, both in the UK and the US. And then in the US specifically, we've got a project which is purely API driven. You know, it is a big investment for us, which will allow real speed to market for insurance distribution. So those are the three key areas that we think. You know, in motor insurance still globally is you know the most necessitated. You know, whilst car ownership is changing fast, you know, there's still a huge amount of vehicles. What is a big groundswell at the moment is vans and last mile delivery and delivery vans, and you know that's a whole world of data and flexibility. You know that needs to be explored further. And insurance is potentially a disabler to that growth. You know, if it's not done properly. You know, and we see also the whole, you know, scooter world and the electric bikes and you know, all of those products need modern insurance.
Yeah.
You know, and those are the spaces that we're playing heavily in. But the home world, or what we call the live world, we see a huge growth area.
And jurisdictionally, Ed, the business has grown, and therefore its focus is UK, US, but I mean, presumably, jurisdictionally, it just can continue to roll out.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is, Toby, we've actually pulled back. You know, we had a product live in Australia, and we had a product live in Japan, and actually, we've decided that we need more focus. You know, there's enough opportunities, and what you have to become. You know, we made a big investment as well in our insurance capabilities. So we're always hugely strong in technology, but we invested heavily in our insurance capabilities and our insurance people to really understand the complexity of not just the technology of the insurance, because you know each regulatory environment has different requirements, and we believe that the more we know about it, therefore the easier and the better partner we become. It also enables us to speak the similar language than our underwriting partners, which is really, really important. You know, if you think our success really will be hugely driven by how successful the partnerships we have with the large insurers are, like the Lloyds of this world, and therefore to understand more about how their business operates has been a huge step for us over the last 18 months. You know, it gives us more gravitas and gives us more confidence that we understand their pain points, as opposed to, you know, I think initially any of the Insurtechs, it was all about distribution. It was all about disruption. Well, realistically, you know, we need insurance capacity. We need reinsurers. And therefore to understand their business better has been a huge positive for us, and that will continue. And then the US, very similar, but you know, having launched our own product B2C in the US, you know, the US is like having 51 countries. You know, each one of them is a mini country with its own rules and regulations, and therefore our investment in insurance knowledge has been vital to that. You know, so in some ways we've pulled back, but we see that as a reality of actually understanding our product better now, understand where we're going. And it's exciting for us.
It has been so exciting to learn a bit more of the Trove journey. I've watched it because I've interest in it for all sorts of reasons for the last 2 or 3 years. But for the viewers who didn't know about Trove before, this has been really informative. It's a shame that we can't be doing this side by side with a cup of coffee or here. Hopefully here in Northern Ireland, that'll happen soon. But thanks very much, Ed, for your time.
Brilliant, Toby. I really enjoyed it. As I said, it's great to get involved in something in Northern Ireland. You know, and as I said earlier, I think Northern Ireland has you know, the more and more people I meet, there's so much talented technology people around Northern Ireland, and you know, I hopefully some of the local brokers and the local insurance companies will get something out of this, and if I can help in any any way with anybody listening, I'd be glad to get involved.
Yeah, and thanks to the digital DNA community for giving us the opportunity to chat and to put this out there.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Ed, see you soon.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye.